Here's what's coming up on the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan.
But if you're getting ready to retire or in retirement, you better have an income plan. You better have a risk plan. You better have a fee plan. You better have an income plan. Where's the income going to come from for the rest of your life?
Advisors either specialize in asset accumulation or they specialize in asset preservation and income distribution. Jim and I specialize in the latter. We specialize in asset preservation and income distribution.
We are able to generate an extra $1,710 of excess cash flow every single month, times 12 months. It's $20,000 a year of excess cash flow. It relieved her of all of her worrying done when we were able to show her how to do this.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Welcome to this week's show.
We have 30 minutes of great information designed just for you.
Don't go anywhere. Make yourselves very comfortable because the show starts right now.
Hi, and welcome to this week's Author's Corner. As usual, I'm here with Dan and Jim. They are TV personalities, radio talk show hosts, and Amazon.com best-selling authors. Guys, we have a great topic today, and it's warning signs about your money. And Dan, my first one is you don't have the amount of risk, or you don't know the amount of risk, and it's not written in your plan. You have no idea what a crash could potentially do to your portfolio.
I think a lot of people are finding themselves in that position right now, and they kind of feel it in their gut. They know that if something bad happens in the market, they're probably going to lose a lot of money, but they can't quantify it. No one showed them this. And they can think about reality, and that is, how much did they lose in 2001 and 2? How much did they lose in 2007, 8, 9? They might have lost 50% each time. And if they haven't made many changes, and we have another time period like that, how much are they going to lose? 50%, right? You can think of that way and just do a logical conclusion. But in reality, what you have to do is you have to do a risk stress test, and we have to use very, very sophisticated software that we have, and we enter in every single asset someone has into the system, and it spits out a very simple, easy to understand analysis that shows here's where your assets are allocated, here's how much you can make if the market goes up in a good year, here's how much you can lose if the market crashes. Pretty cool data and very simple. Every single person can understand it, and don't you think every single person should have one of those tests done for them?
So, I always like to ask this as a follow-up. I think a lot of people don't believe there could be another 50% drop in the stock market. They've experienced it twice before. Oh, that could never happen again. What do you say to those people?
You have two groups. You have one group that thinks we're going to have a 50% stock market crash every day for the next 365 days. Yeah. Then you have someone over here that thinks there's never going to be another 50% stock market crash for the next 250 years. It's literally, they're either so afraid it's going to happen so many times or not. We just look at reality, and we don't want to make anyone afraid. We want to make them educated so they can make the best decisions. Go back to 1929. If you include the recent bear market in 2022, there have been 17 times the stock market has been in a bear market, which is a 20% or larger loss. It literally takes every 5 years into account. On average, we're going to have a 39% loss. The loss lasts 18 months from high to low, and the average loss is 39%. So in that case, who cares if we don't have another 50% loss? What if you have another 39% loss every 5 years of your retirement, and you have to navigate through 5 or 6 more 39% losses, Jim? Yep. How in the heck are you going to do that successfully?
Or you're going to be pretty stressed out to try to go through that type of stage of environment. It won't work if you're retired. You won't have income. You likely will run out of income, and you'll be totally stressed. So that's not going to work.
And let's talk about income, because maybe that big warning sign that is a huge red flag is you don't have a written income plan that tells you how much you're going to receive every month of every year for the next 30 plus years.
You do not need an income plan if you're 30, 40, or 50. But if you're getting ready to retire or in retirement, you better have an income plan. You better have a risk plan. You better have a fee plan. You better have an income plan. Where's the income going to come from for the rest of your life? Is the income guaranteed? Is it not guaranteed? Will it go up? Will it go down? Will it go away? You have to understand this, not just for the next 30 years, but month by month by month. And that's exactly what we do for our clients. We develop comprehensive financial plans to illustrate for them where your income is going to come from so they understand it. And we develop the asset placement based on the income plan. And the estimate placement will tell us how much income they need, will tell us where to put the money, what type of assets we're going to use inside the portfolio.
Dan, that's the other next big warning sign. They don't have a comprehensive, I'm going to underline that, put an exclamation point there, comprehensive written plan.
Yes, most people don't, and people watching right now think, well, I have a plan. They have assets that are invested. They get statements, but they don't have a plan unless they can say in writing right now, they can go through their files and find out, do they have an income sheet that'll show how much income they're going to receive each year and where each income source comes from, and it shows for the next 30 years throughout retirement. I doubt if anybody has one of those. They need to have a tax plan that'll show each month how much income they're going to bring in, how much tax needs to be withheld, what their net income is, subtract their budget, and how much net excess money do they have. They probably don't have that. They need to have a risk analysis that shows how much risk are they taking now if they lose 50%, or if the market goes down 50% like it did in 08, and with their new plan, how much risk they have. They probably don't have that. They need to have a fee sheet that shows how much total fees they're paying, direct and indirect hidden fees, and compared to the new plan, how much fees are paying direct and indirect. They need to be able to also show how much money could potentially be left to their beneficiaries when they're gone after they've used their assets for income. Now, if you have that, Mark, you got a plan.
Comprehensive plan.
Comprehensive.
Now, I'm the host. If you had that, would you feel more comfortable?
Oh my goodness, sleep at night good. Dan, Jim, thanks so much. If you want more information about anything we spoke about here, in particular a comprehensive written plan, hey, pick up that phone right now, give us a call, 916-452-7325, or visit our website. And don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Files, CEO Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap, including a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all free, no pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. There's no risk and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
On this week's segment of We Fix Your Money, you're going to meet Joanne. She's in her mid-60s, recently widowed, and has been laid off from her job. She's scared about making financial mistakes, like taking too much risk or running out of money in retirement. Now over to Dan and Jim to tell you how they helped Joanne.
Thanks, Mark. We are so excited to be here to present this week's hypothetical case study. We're going to talk about Joanne. If you can imagine, she's 64 and her husband passed away. That's bad enough as far as, all the emotions you're going to have to go through. But then right after that, she got laid off at work because her company was downsizing. Two back-to-back punches to the gut, which are both emotional and financial. Losing your husband, losing your spouse, both of those cost you emotional money as well as financial money. Well, the good news is she has $36,000 in pension, and she does get some Social Security. She has $2 million of assets, but she only has about $20,000 sitting in the bank. She had planned before to work till 70. Her house is paid off. She's ultra conservative. She has a broker that she's had for 20 years, thinks of the broker as a friend, and she's always been told she's paying about 1% in fees. But she wants an actual plan now because it's just her. She knows she has no more job, no more salary. She doesn't think she's going to be able to get a new job at this point in her life, so it scares her. So instead of retiring at 70, which is 6 more years, which is a lot longer in the future to be able to save money and not have to touch her assets, she's probably going to have to start touching her assets now. And she wants to stop worrying about the potential risk she has because she doesn't want to suffer big losses. She's deathly afraid of a market crash now that it's just her alone. She's afraid of her money running out. She doesn't like not having enough liquidity. She hates only having $20,000 in the bank. And she has a disabled daughter that she has to focus on leaving a legacy to. So this is a little bit of a unique scenario, but this is someone that has so much pain in her life right now. We have to help her get over the hump and put a plan together for her.
Well, it's not unique based on all the things that clients want their money to do for them. We just identified this in this example. And it's not unique because she happened to lose a spouse, but many people are divorced and they're by themselves. They don't know what to do. And unless you have a plan put in place, you're going to go through life worrying about it. So when we did an allocation and risk assessment of her plan, she had $20,000 in the bank. She had $1.98 million in the markets. She had no money in the principal protected or lifetime income bucket. We increased the money in the bank from $20,000 to $200,000 for additional safety. We put $800,000 in the growth bucket because we needed to figure out how do we lower the risk and how do we increase the income based on her objectives. We put $1 million in the principal protected and life income. Remember, she's single, she's by herself, she wanted principal protection, same $2 million. When we did a risk assessment of her plan, she had a 45.7% risk factor, which means if the market dropped by 50%, she was going to lose almost 48% of the value of her money. It blew her away when she saw these numbers, which it does with most clients. That would mean she would lose $914,000 of her $1.98 million, and she would need an 84.2% rate of return to make up that 45% loss. Again, when we restructured the plan, we reduced her risk down less than 5%. We got it to minus 3.7%. She was going to lose $74,000 in a market crash, estimated, rather than $914,000. And the key, we only needed a 3.8% rate of return to recover that 3.7% loss versus trying to get an 84% rate of return to recover a 46% loss. Big difference, Dan, in the planning process.
Definitely. Well, the planning process started with what were her goals and objectives, and then that's the only time you invest your money. Right now, everyone out there is investing their money in a portfolio just for growth with no reasoning behind it as far as how those assets are going to be used and what's the probability that your objectives are going to be met by investing it that way. So you have to first define what your goals are, then we can allocate. For her, this is the perfect allocation because look at it. We have $200,000 of money sitting in the bank. That makes her feel so comfortable she can spend it. She doesn't have as much risk with the growth assets and she's going to get some income from it. So this then allowed us to complete her income and fee assessment. On her income assessment, she wasn't taking any money out of the assets right now because she has continued to plan to work, but she's laid off. So now we're going to plan to take out $68,000 per year from her assets with $50,000 of that guaranteed for as long as she lived. We needed to use $1 million to create that guaranteed lifetime income. The rest was invested in the growth in the bank. But that's a great way to now set a fixed level income so she doesn't have to worry about not getting this money for as long as she lives. And then her previous fees were 2.24%. We're going to be able to reduce her fees down to 1.31%, which over the next 20 years is going to save her over $370,000 of fees that she either gets to take out in extra income or she gets to leave them to her beneficiary, especially her disabled daughter, which ends up being a key reason to try to reduce fees as much as possible. And when we do this section of the plan, it allows us to do something very important, which is what is her monthly income going to look like, Jim?
Yeah, again, we got the risk down, but the only way you can get the income to work is to get your risk plan down, because if you got too much risk, the income plan is not going to work for you in the future. Gross monthly income for Joanne was going to be $8,600 a month. Estimated tax, federal and state, $1,500. Net after-tax income every month, $7,110. Her budget was $5,400. We are able to generate an extra $1,710 of excess cash flow every single month, times 12 months, it's $20,000 a year of excess cash flow. It relieved her of all of her worrying done when we were able to show her how to do this.
Exactly, because remember, she wasn't planning to retire till 70.
Yeah. She's
retiring now 6 years early, which is usually almost impossible for most people to imagine that that could work. It's going to work. She's going to be fine, because remember, on top of the $20,000 of excess cash flow, we also still have $200,000 of money sitting in the bank to make her feel comfortable that if she needs even more than that, we can draw money off of the bank money that'll help maximize what she needs on a monthly basis. Now, with this, we were able to now look at how much can potentially be left for her daughter. Remember, daughter's is disabled. And let's assume she only earns 4% on her portfolio assets, 1% in the bank, and 1.5% on her real estate appreciation. And she spends all that income we're giving her because she's going to have a really wonderful, secure, fun, and happy retirement. Well, that means she's going to be taking out $1.98 million of income by the time she's 90. So basically, all her assets she's going to take out in income. But if her assets only earn 4%, her bank earns 1%, and her real estate earns 1.5%, even though she spent all that income, she's still going to have about $3.4 million in a pot that she can now use to help pay for the life expectancy of her daughter who's disabled and have enough money for her daughter to live a very wonderful life and not have to worry about her daughter, and her daughter doesn't have to worry about anything. So maybe you can summarize this plan.
Well, again, the key to proper planning is three things: planning, planning, and planning, and do it before you invest your money. Just don't give somebody your money. It makes no sense to do that. You need a plan in place. That's what we do for every client. We provide a full written plan in detail. She can retire now, not wait 5 or 6 years. We reduced her risk substantially. We reduced her fees. The money will last for her entire life. We increased her liquidity. She's going to be able to leave money to her daughter, which she needed desperately to make sure that worry was off her mind. And because that's off her mind and her income to be there for the rest of her life, she's not going to lose a lot of money if the market goes down. She reduced her fees. She stopped worrying as much, Dan.
So when you look at an actual plan, like one built for Joanne, I think people think all my goals can't be achieved. all your goals might be achieved. In fact, we see most cases when we actually write down all the goals a client has, like you might have in writing, we can achieve almost all, if not all those goals, just because we actually create a plan that's going to show how you're going to achieve these things. And that's what's going to make you feel finally confident that because you work so hard to save all this money, it's now going to work for you. Back to you, Mark.
Wow, guys, what great results from a great plan. Your situation may not be exactly like Joanne's. You may be married or retired, but you can see how planning can help you attain your goals and alleviate some of your worries about money. If this is something you'd like help with, pick up the phone right now and give us a call, 916-452-7325, or visit our website. Now stay tuned for a great complimentary offer.
Hi, I'm Dan Ahmed, president of Peak Financial. We have a great free offer for you. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap that includes a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all for free. No pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. Call the phone number on the screen or go to our website to claim your free offer. You have nothing to lose, there's no risk, and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Welcome back to the program. Now let's listen in on the Peak Financial Freedom Hour with Jim and Dan.
Jim, great to be back for this week's radio show, Peak Financial Freedom Hour. And we give a lot of good information out there. We try to educate people so they don't have to worry about their money so much. That's the whole goal. And today we're going to cover questions that people have asked us in the past. And these questions we think are very pertinent today because they usually are regarding risk. How do I develop income? What does the plan look like? All these things that people worry about right now. So we're going to go over these because we think it helps a lot of the current listeners right now. Jim, why don't you handle John? He's 62, plans to retire at 65. He has $1.2 million tied up in his 401k at work, $100,000 of money in the bank, and $700,000 in a brokerage managed account. So he saved $2 million. He's done a great job, but he doesn't have a pension, so he better save that much money. I've seen my assets drop by $300,000 recently. Would you recommend seeing an advisor now or waiting until after I retire?
I think absolutely, number one, he needs to see an advisor to make sure he's on track. Number two, he may not realize this, but when you turn 59 and a half and you're employed, you can actually take your money out of your 401k and you can have an IRA structured and transfer that on a tax-deferred basis. So now you have a lot more opportunities to make sure that you have things in place that are going to work in retirement years, which are different than pre-retirement years, right?
Definitely.
So, yeah, so a plan can be put in place to accomplish all those goals that he has described here to make sure he's not taking too much risk. Because if he has a diversified portfolio, let's say it's made up of 60% stock funds and 40% bond funds, that portfolio is slated to lose about 38.5% if the market goes down by 50%. And a lot of these target funds out there, a lot of people have, and with employers, that's exactly how they're configured.
Well, in target funds, a lot of people don't think they can lose much, if anything, because it sounds like that. But in his case, I think, you know, he doesn't say it, but I think he doesn't realize how successful he's been in accumulating $2 million of assets at this point in his life. And at this point, he probably shouldn't take a lot of risk because if he's planning to retire in 3 years, he's in that 5-year time period between now and the time you want to retire. You better not have a big loss because he's already lost $300,000. That's 15%. If he loses 30, 40, 50%, he might not make it. So he better meet with an advisor, find a way to reduce his risk, and actually get a plan in writing that'll show his income, his taxes, his risk, his fees, all those things that we talk about. Okay, how about Marty and Karen? The thought of having an actual plan in writing sounds awesome. Everything in writing so we finally can understand our money. We've had advisors over the years and have never had a written plan. We've done it ourselves at times and, of course, never had a written plan. We have almost $1.9 million saved and are trying to get to $2 million so we can do a plan. Is $2 million enough for an actual plan? Can you please describe again exactly what a written plan is and how it works?
It looks like they want to get to that magic number, right?
Yeah, you know, people always have this number, preconceived amount of money they think they have to have saved before they feel comfortable. And whether that's a correct number or not, it doesn't matter. It just might not fit because the only way you figure out how much money you need is going to be to do a budget. Find out how much income on a monthly basis you need, then you create a plan, and if the plan can provide that amount of income, now you know you have enough saved. So your magic number's not your assets, it's your budget. In this case, an actual written plan will include a budget. So we're going to have you create a budget, not a tight budget, but how much money do you really need for paying every source, mortgage payments, real estate taxes, insurance on your house, car expenses, food, eating out. If you drink wine, pets, everything, hair, makeup, all those things to find out how much you really spend on a monthly basis. That's the first part of a written plan. Then we're going to look at your assets and find out how much risk you have in your current assets and find out if that's too much, because what if it comes back that you have 40% risk and you're getting ready to retire? That's too much risk. Let's get it down to 5% and you probably won't worry as much. Then we're going to create an income plan that'll show how you're going to allocate your assets to create income that will flow to you every year and show for the next 30 years where each income source comes from. Can you imagine seeing that on the screen and in writing where your income's going to come from? All the worry goes away. We'll do an income tax analysis that'll show what your gross income is per month, the taxes you have to pay, what your net income after taxes is, minus your budget, how much excess money you have. And what if someone can have $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 excess monthly income on top of their budget? How does that feel then?
It'll change your life. But we talk about plans on all of our shows. People don't understand what a plan is because they're not getting them now. They think the plan is maybe their statement or their investments. No, the investment is secondary. You have to have a plan in place before you invest your money so you know why you're investing the money, Dan.
Exactly. Well, it's a great show this week, Jim. Hopefully people learned a lot. And if you'd like a second opinion, feel free, give us a call. We can answer your questions. You also can go to our website and you can get a lot of data there. You also can sign up for an appointment right there on the website.
Thanks, guys. That was some great information. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
It seems that as people enter retirement, their views on investing change dramatically. Most people want to be a lot more conservative, but their portfolios don't match their change in mindset. It seems most people and advisors continue to have a more aggressive, growth-oriented approach to their money, even in retirement. Today on Peak University, Dan and Jim are going to be discussing their viewpoints on this strategy.
Thanks, Mark. We agree that there's so much confusion out there as far as what do you do with your money now that you're retired? Because as you're accumulating assets while you're working, you play by one set of rules and you continue to think, and your advisor might tell you you have to continue to play by those set of rules when you're retired, but that's probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make during retirement, because there are actually two stages of money in retirement planning. And you probably haven't been taught this. If you're not taught this, it leaves you in a position for massive financial failure. The first stage you're very well aware of, and that is stage one, asset accumulation while you're working. During this phase, you are working, making a salary. You know, to get your income, all you have to do is go to work, do your stuff, and at the end of the week or 2 weeks or each month, you get paid a certain amount, so everything's fine. You're investing monthly into your 401k, your 403bs, your 457. You desire maximum growth so that you have as much money as possible on the day you retire. You can accept losses and volatility. You don't need current income because you're making your salary, so you don't need income from the assets. And assets are to be used for income at some point in the far off future, and time is definitely on your side in stage one. The problem is once you get to within 5 years of retirement and all the way through retirement, you now should have already transitioned into stage two of retirement planning, which is called asset preservation and income distribution. Because at this point, you're retired or pre-retired and the same rules don't apply. Now the rules in the green box will be you're not making a salary and you want to know how in the heck am I going to replace my paychecks? You're not making monthly investments into your 401k or 403b or 457 any longer. You want maximum security. You know in your mind and your heart and your gut you have to minimize losses. You want to create secure lifetime income that won't end at a very high level so you can live the retirement of your dreams. You want the assets to produce income now or at some point in the future in an exact amount you need, and time is definitely not on your side any longer, which means you cannot use the same strategies, assets, and planning for both stages. You can't use the same advisors because advisors either specialize in asset accumulation or they specialize in asset preservation and income distribution. Jim and I specialize in the latter. We specialize in asset preservation and income distribution because that would be like saying that someone's going to be a heart surgeon and a brain surgeon. You can't do both. You have an expertise in one area and that's what you help people with. We help people in stage two.
So Dan, there's a significant difference of opinion when it comes to risk. And we want to walk you through our view of risk, which is going to be on the right-hand side in blue, and Wall Street's view of risk, which is going to red. So for example, Let's just say you told your advisor you want to be ultra-conservative. Well, what you have to understand, if you're ultra-conservative, that means that you're probably in 20% stocks and maybe 80% fixed income, like mutual funds. That means that if the market goes down by 50%, you're likely to lose 15 to 20%, or on $1 million of asset investment, you're down $150,000 to $200,000.
And that person, if they're ultra-conservative, they don't think
They
that's
want to lose
true,
anything.
but that is true.
So let us give you our opinion of ultra-conservative. Our opinion is you don't want to lose any money at all. So we have to position your assets like that, not because we want that, you want that, and we have to listen to you and design a financial plan around that. So let's say you're conservative and your portfolio is made up of 40% stocks or stock funds and 60% fixed income like bonds. And that means if the market goes down by 50%, you're likely going to lose between 25 and 30%, or $250,000 to $300,000 of your $1 million. Well, that's not our definition, right?
And what person watching right now thinks if they're conservative, they could lose $250,000 to $300,000?
Nobody. But ask yourself in 2022, if you had this type of portfolio, how much were you down? These numbers will start to resonate if you look at history. Our opinion of being conservative is if the market goes down by 50%, you want to lose between 1% and 4% in that range, and you'll be down $10,000 to $40,000. You're still going to be down, but you're not going to be down anywhere near what's over here on the left-hand side. So moderate. Many of you watching right now have a moderate portfolio. If you're 60 to 65 to 70, you call one of the big brokerage companies, you probably have a 60-40 portfolio, 60% in stocks or stock funds, 40% in fixed income, bonds or bond funds. That means if the market goes down by 50%, you're going to lose approximately 35 to 40% of your hard-earned money, which means you'll be down $350,000 to $400,000 on your $1 million, right? That is not our opinion. Our opinion is if you're moderate, we want you to keep your loss factor between 5 and 7%. So if the market goes down by 50, you're only down by 5 to 7, which means you're down $50,000 to $70,000. Dan, the last one, aggressive.
Sure. If you're aggressive, now that means you have about 80% stocks and about 20% bonds, which you know you can lose money in an aggressive portfolio, but very few people think that would amount to a 45 to 50% loss, because even if they're aggressive, they think their advisor is modifying their portfolio because they're retired. They're not. It's an aggressive portfolio. They could lose $450,000 to $500,000 if we suffer a 50% stock market loss. Our aggressive is 8 to 10%. That means our aggressive clients should expect to lose between $80,000 and $100,000 of their total $1 million portfolio if the market suffers a 50% loss. Speculative is if you have an all stock portfolio in retirement, you better be willing to lose 51% or more, which means $510,000 or larger of losses of your $1 million. We don't even entertain or understand the definition of speculative at our firm. So when you look at these two, the red will be traditional financial industry definition of risk. The blue is our definition of risk. Which one then fits you? And if you're in retirement, almost every single person says, I definitely fit more in the blue, the peak risk definition, because I don't want to lose that much. I want to make some gain. I just don't want to suffer as big of losses.
The key here is that you have to look at your age, what you're trying to achieve with your money, and you have to consider different financial instruments, different strategies to make all this work, because you can't just stick your money in the market and expect not to lose a lot of money. You have to structure your portfolio according to your objectives at this point in your life.
Exactly. So hopefully this helps you understand risk. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, guys. I bet most people haven't heard about the 2 stages of their money in retirement. It makes perfect sense to focus on growth and accumulation when we're younger, and then focus on asset preservation and income in retirement. If this is something you'd like to learn more about, give us a call in the office at 916-452-7325 or go to our website.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Thank you for watching this week's show.
And if you want more information about anything we talked about here today, give us a call in the office or go to our website.
And remember, at Peak Financial Freedom Group, we fix your money.
The preceding program is sponsored by Peak Financial Freedom Group.